Hello YouTubers, Troz here, and this will be part 4 of my Minecart transport stations from A to Z video. And in this video we'll be going over analog redstone and things you can do with the new item frame techniques that the 1.8 pre-release betas or test versions allow. So let's get into it. And I am here on 14W08A, which came out today, I believe. Previously I was on, most of this was built in 06 and 07. So we're going to be going over to this area here. And in the pre-release versions, we have a new feature. You can have an item frame here with an item in it, and by placing a comparator behind the item frame, or behind the block the item frame is on, you can get an output. And item frames used to be able to rotate the item into 4 positions, but now you can rotate it into 8 positions. This is position 1 for arrows. The position 1 is the same as the item shows in your hotbar down here. And when the item frame is completely empty, the comparator will output no signal. When it's in position 1, you can see it outputs 1 power, redstone of power 1. Only goes 1 block. So in this case, this is a little well, it's a station with an 8-way switch that this is acting as. You just rotate this around to choose. So when you're in position 1, nothing is powered, so all these torches are on. So you will come out this first exit here and go right to 1. If you rotate this over to 2, you can see this comparator is now outputting 2 power, so that powers this one and this one, which turns off the torch. Then we have another comparator that copies the power to here, but there's nothing attached to it. If the reason we do this is because, kind of like we showed in the last video, you can't really have a turn section switch track every possible block. I mean, you wind up something like this. I did show one mechanism for getting around this, but it worked out to be really complex. So you would like to have this every other block, but if you have it every other block and without comparators, you would only get 4 positions. Because basically it would go, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. And you'd only be able to get, it only go as far as 8 blocks. So you'd only be able to get 4 turns out of it. If you put comparators, the power level behind the comparator will be, I really should say, the power level in front of the comparator will be the same as the power level behind the comparator. So in this case, this is 2, so this is 1, so this is also 1. But we only want to affect one place here. So we basically have to have the turns every 3 spots. So that is why this is like it is. If I put this now up to 3, we'll see 2 torches are out. So you'll pass by these first 2 and then turn down the 3rd to go down to 3 sign down here. Again, if we put it up to 4 or 5 or 6, the same thing happens. As you notice, there's only, should only be 7 torches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when we put it to 7, the 7th torch is still on. The reason that is because we drop 1 down immediately, so at 1, this is still on. So then when we put it on 8, the 7th torch goes out. That lets us go down to this 8th exit and / entrance. You know, when coming in, you'll just bypass all those turns and torches and come, and the cart will automatically be collected. You know, so other than the switch, this is a normal kind of station. You know, but this is really, really nice. You can basically have 8 selections from, you know, a 3x3 area. I mean, you can actually even have just one block, but it, you know, it really helps having either signs or colored blocks or something to indicate, you know, which track you're going to be using. I did kind of experiment with some other things here. If you use a torch, and you know, I have redstone torch, but you can use just normal torch. The stick can be used as a pointer. In that case, 1 is down, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What I did do though here is I wanted to find a better way of doing this. Instead of having every 3, try to do it every 2. And I worked out that if I kind of zigzag here back and forth, I can get the turns every 2, so it's not as wide. So the way this works is on 1, again, we power this, but there's no torch here. And then on 2, this block is powered from because the redstone's running into it. It turns off the torch, but also the power is copied forward into this block, which then powers this one. So basically, we get one power drop here. The next power drop is here. The next power drop is here. So the power drop alternates front and back, and because of that, we get 1 block narrower, but we're obviously wider here. So I go up to 3. The power now reaches all the way here, turning off the second torch, etc., etc. And then I did, well, the problem with this version is kind of the height keeps bouncing up and down, so I have to have some spots with torches and some spots with a bit of redstone under a torch. So then I figured, well, instead of varying the height of the torches, we can vary the height of the redstone wire. And basically the same layout, but each horizontal redstone wire drops down 1, but that allows us to have the torches all on the same level. And here, this is actually a tripwire hook. Again, kind of acting like a pointer. Personally, though, I found that, well, personally, I like arrows and possibly swords. Let's see, let's grab a sword. Stone one's fine. So we can knock that out, put the sword in. The sword is going to point the same way as the arrow, with 1 up in this corner. And then as you rotate it around, you can see all the lights are coming, and now all torches are off because we're in the 8th position. And now we're back to 1. Yeah, so it takes up little space, but gives you 8 options, and is relatively easy to wire. Especially if you don't mind it being every 3, then it's pretty straightforward. I had then an idea to combine 2 of these at once. So one will give you 8 options, and then for each one of those 8 options, I was going to have 8 options for a total of 64 options. But then I decided, well, I did actually get that accomplished. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for that design, I decided I kind of like my push button selectors. I would want a lockout circuit to prevent someone changing the destination on you as you are leaving. So I played around a little bit and I came up with a circuit that will keep a power level. So if you have a block that's at a set power level, it will keep it. And this is the circuit I came up with. I call it the signal strength latched. Right now, I have this, so let's say if I put a torch here, this will be 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and this is kind of the input. And the output is either this redstone here, or this block, or actually even this redstone here. They all will be powered at the same. So, let's say 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So let me put that there. And you see now this is powered pretty strongly. It's not quite 15, but it should be 11. If I come all the way down here, this will be 1 or 2. Or maybe that wasn't 1 or 2. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Did I pull it out too fast? Yeah, I might have pulled it away too fast. It needs a few ticks. So here you can see it's basically power level 2 here. And the way this works is, basically this is a feedback loop with these comparators. Whatever power level is here will be put into this block, which will power this redstone at the same power level, which this comparator will then put in this block, etc., etc., etc. It keeps basically going around the circle, powering itself. Well, how does it get a new bit of power? Well, if you power this more strongly, that would, go up in power automatically. The stronger power would be, if I just put a torch down here, that's now 15. So how do you reduce the power? Well, you have to clear this first. So what happens here is when this gets power, no matter what it is, this will boost it up to 15. Which then powers this block, which depowers this torch, and because of reasons, the piston will come back, even though the block is powered. And then, when that block moves back, after 2 ticks, this will clear. Because it only takes 2 ticks for the power to go all the way around. So that will completely clear. And then 2 ticks later, this power will shut off, and this piston will pull back. So then this comparator will take the power, whatever the power level is here, and then put it into that block, which will be there, which will then put it into this system. So basically, we zero this out and then put in whatever power level is over here. So if I put a torch here, you'll be able to see the pistons move. That's right. It's a monostable circuit. So this sends out a short pulse, and that allows the whole thing to work. I forgot even how this worked. Mostly because I don't use this anymore. I looked up on some videos to see if anyone else had done anything similar, and yes, of course, other people had done something similar. And Disco the Redstoner has this design, and really it is this torch, these 2 comparators, these 2 bits of redstone, and this torch. But basically, this is kind of similar to my whole 2 blocks and 2 comparators. The advantage of this situation, both these comparators are put on subtraction mode. So we got 15 input from both these torches. So if I put a torch here and power this to 15, because this is in subtraction mode, this is 15 minus 15 from the side gives us 0. And because this is also in subtraction mode, this is 15 minus 0 gives us 15. Now let's say I was able to give this a power of 1. So if this was 1, 15 minus 1 is 14, and 15 minus 14 is 1. So basically, where this one has the same power at both bits of redstone, this one has opposite powers at both bits of redstone, and that actually becomes very useful for a lot of things. So I basically kind of use this generally like this. This becomes my redstone level detector block or spot. I have 2 repeaters. So that this, when this gets powered, this will become 15. And actually I generally, well, and then the comparators will then power this side with whatever power level was here. So this is kind of the reset, and this is kind of the input. So that this spot here has the power level that came in, and this spot has its complement, or 15 minus that. And you can actually do some useful things with this. Now, if you remember, for the last video, we had a bunch of push-button selectors. Now, all these designs kind of top out at 15 because that's just how far a signal works. However, even though they top out at 15 buttons, and a redstone signal can have 15 states, if you had a 15 version of this, we'd have 15 kind of memory cells made out of these 2 droppers facing into each other. But we don't really need to do that because we now have a device that can store 15 separate states in 6 blocks. We can use a push-button selector system with only 1 memory cell that can hold up to 15 different values. So these are some designs I made using that. And if you do have one of these, you can then just use a circuit like this, where this only has 8 values. You can use a longer version of this to decode that 1 signal into turning the proper track switch. So here was kind of my first push button design. And this one actually kind of goes one better in that it has 16 complete states. So you could actually have 16 turn tracks off this, because not only is full on a redstone level of 15, but full off is a redstone level of 0, and you can actually use that. So this is using my old kind of just same level with 2 pistons, 1 for input and 1 for output, or 1 for input and 1 for holding the value. And this may look weird, but I'll kind of demonstrate it over here. Let's put this somewhere at a middle value, and I pull that off too quick. There we go. So this kind of has a middle value. I don't know what it is exactly, but I don't really care. If I want to transmit this, though, somewhere else, I can't just use redstone because, well, every block of redstone, the power goes down 1 and then eventually stops. What I could do is I could take a bunch of comparators, and I'm going to get the same output there as I have here. But there's 2 problems with this. One is very resource intensive. You know, comparators take 3 torches each and some smooth stone and some nether quartz. So that takes takes a lot of materials. And as you can see, if it changes, it takes a while to propagate. So what can you do? Well, there's 2 things you can do. This wire here will power a block, and then you can get the power level out of a block with a comparator, and then you can push it into another block, and that will power some redstone on the other side of it, and that will power a block on another side of it, and then you can put down another comparator, and you can just keep repeating that pattern. Comparator, block, redstone, block, comparator. And you can actually, it's much less resource intensive this way. You use 1/4 the number of comparators. And you can actually even then turn the signal like that, or you can turn the signal here like that. And if you need to, you can also go up. You can put a block there, and then this will allow you to go up a level. Or if you don't even need to go that far, you can go here and then have another block and go up. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it will actually work better with these. I like to call these spinner selectors, basically, because this kind of acts like a spinner. But this needs only 8 signals. So you have another 7 basically to work with. So, well, let me set one up here real quick. I'm not completely familiar with this. I've seen it on the wiki. I mean, I know the concept. So comparator, and I'm gonna, well, comparator. So this is gonna output low powered signals. But if we can output high powered signals, and we can, by, let's say, putting this in subtract mode. Let's see. I'll show you. See, yeah, right now that is outputting power level 1 because we're in the first position. But we want to output a high-powered signal. So we can put this in subtract mode, put a torch on the back of it, and now that is going to be powering out 14. Not quite 15, but 14. Now, let's say we want to get the signal to travel in this direction. So we can put down, this will only get as high as 8. So 15 minus 8 will give you 7. So we can, that'll be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Except it's not really 1 in this case. It's if this was to output 14, I should say if this was to output 8, 15 minus 8 will be, 15 minus 8 would be 7. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We don't ever want to go this to 0 because then we can't tell if it's a lower power or what. But we can now put another redstone torch here, invert this again to boost it back up, and if we do the same number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we can invert this back. Subtraction mode. There we go. Actually, we don't need to invert it back. That should be the same. Let's put a block here. That will be the same power as this is giving out. So right now it's 1, and we know that because none of those are on. If I turn this once, we are now 1 beyond here, so that's a 2, which is exactly what this is outputting. 3. That's 1, 2, 3. So you can see, basically, this kind of flips. No matter what this is outputting, this subtraction circuit, if this goes from 0 up, this circuit will make it from 15 down, and then you can go a distance which subtracts kind of off, and this flips it around again, and once you go the same distance, you're kind of back to where you were again. This, of course, relies on you not using all the signals. So in this case, we'll only use a maximum of 8 anymore, and this would go to 0, which would cause this to break. But because this doesn't go to 0, you basically can extend the distance if you're not using all of the signals, and those unused signals basically go to how long this piece of redstone, this bit of redstone wire can be before you need to invert it again. And you can do the invert multiple times and it'll still work. But this is another type of analog wiring you can do if you're not using all the signals. Alright, so back to this push button selector. This is our memory cell, basically. And then we have, I'm using that first type of wire I showed off, just because it's kind of easiest. Because I am using all the signals possible. And I have basically the signal come up here. And then I'm using this for display. So basically how this works is I'll push this first button. And you didn't hear it, but I'm not sure why. I guess I was far enough away that you didn't hear those pistons. But you see, only the first light is on, because the way this worked is the button powered this strip here, and the power got down to 1 here. That one is stored in this basically analog memory cell, and then that 1 bit of power is transmitted up here. It powers this block, which powers this light. So, this light is on, indicating that's where you click the button. And then you can pull power out from here, or actually anywhere along this line, and have it activate switches or do whatever you need to do, knowing that the power is 1 because the person pressed this 1 button. Now if I press the second button here, a similar thing happens. Its power level is 2 by the time you get down here. If I push this button, there you kind of heard the pistons. All the lights up to where the button you pressed will be on. And then if I push this button, now they're all on, and then this actually just runs reset, and all the lights will turn off. So that's how this works. And so basically, instead of having 15 or 16 separate sets of droppers to act as memory cells, we just have 1 memory cell that holds 16 different values, from completely off to completely on redstone. So that's how this design works. But this is a pretty simple design, and you may not like that all the lights are on. Let me show you a different design first before I talk about all the lights being on. Maybe you want to design where the lights come on the other direction. This design is using this redstone memory cell, analog memory cell, and it's actually nicely color-coded too. This is one of the... I should do more designs like this. the blue wool is the actual memory cell itself. That's those three and these three. Again, this and this kind of have opposite powers, or they'll add up to 15 always. The red wool here is kind of the reset circuit. It makes sure that this gets fully powered when a button is pressed, so that this one goes completely out and then can accept whatever power you pressed. The power you pressed comes in through this orange circuit and basically powers this one to whatever level, depending on how far away the button is. The green circuit then is the calculation for the display. And basically, comparators. Well, alright. If I push this button, this will be 15. But I only need 1 here. So how do you get 1? Well, what I really want is, see, this is 15. I want, and this is out. That's 0. So I want this 0, but I want to add 1 to it for the output out here. You know, the problem is you can't add. You can only subtract. So how do you if you can only subtract, how do you add 1? Well, because of the way the redstone works, I mean, you have a max of 15. So if I take whatever this level is and I subtract it from 14, and then I take that value and subtract it from 15, the difference between the 14 and the 15 is 1, and that results in adding 1. So I have a torch here. That means the torch is 15, this is 15, that means this is 14. So we subtract whatever this value is from 14, and that will give us a number that we can then subtract from 15, and that will give us the number we want. So this is 14 in this case. We then do another subtraction from 15, and that gives us the power level we need, but it's not in the right spot, but we can use a block and a comparator. Actually, I could have even switched them around to have a comparator here and then a block, but that will give us 1 here. So when we press this one, 15 comes in, and then we get 1 out. If I pressed this one down here, you can see all the lights come on. This is basically the opposite of that. The lights start on this side instead of on that side. But now we have 1 here and 14 here. And in this case, we do 14 minus 14 gives us 0. And then 15 minus 0 gives us 15, causing all 15 lights to come on. So that's how this works. And you can see this is really small, at least most of it, and then you just need this circuit at the end for getting the display that you want. And this is the same circuit. The only difference is, if you notice when I press this, let's get on the ground fully. It takes a while. The button actually has to pop out before the lights light in their final state. So there's one small change to this circuit. We put a piston, a sticky piston, facing up right here, and that's this design. I mean, it's the exact same design, not colored, but it has a piston. And that piston acts as a monostable circuit, or as a pulse limiter, pulse length limiter. And that makes the circuit react a lot faster. So before the button even pops out, we have our state changed. So that's that design. However, all the designs I showed so far have light fully coming in from one side or the other. And some people may not like that. The rest of these, I mean, the memory circuit is my design, but the display is various designs from various people. As I said before, this memory circuit, memory circuit's not my design. This is my design, though Disco the Redstoner's design is much nicer. The rest of these displays are designed by various people. This design is by Odysseys. He had a 8-position decoder for using with these spin selectors, or item frame selectors. And I just extended it out to 15. But as you can see, you push a button, and just that light comes on. This one happens to be using my older memory cell circuit. This one I designed before I found that one. But basically, this one kind of works similarly. Or, well, we get power. We split that down 2 sides. The one side, we subtract 1 just by having it go a block further than it needs to. The other side, we invert it. So if this was power level 8, we got 8 coming up here, 8 coming up here. 8. This is 8, so we have 7 here, and it goes down. We then take the 8 and we subtract it from 15, and we have 7 coming down this side. Since this is 15 long, they don't quite meet. So the spot that they don't meet, the torch comes on, and that's what we use to power the light. So that's how this display works. It's a little resource intensive in that you need 2 rows here. And the way I set it up, you need extra repeaters, but you could actually position these torches over these lights. I'm not sure if 1 block or 2 blocks up would need to be to not turn on the adjacent lights, but it could be made a slight bit less resource intensive that way. But you know, it works pretty good. Then we have this design, and this design is Generic B's design. His 8-way selector panel with display, I just extended it to 15. And, well, I'm using the Deco the Redstoner's design here for the memory cell. And basically what happens is I'm taking the power out, and I'm dropping it by 1. Why am I dropping it by 1? I know why that was a little weird. Okay. So what happens is, if I press this button here, this becomes 15. But I don't need 15, I need 1. So I'm kind of doing similar math to over there. I'm reducing it by 1 by having us go 15 to 14, but then I'm subtracting that value from 15 to get 1. And you can see 1 bit of power is output. Let me go here, and this will show you completely how it works. So, all the way down here, we have ultimately we have a lamp here that will or will not get powered. We have a torch here, and that would power the lamp, except this torch is being turned off by this torch. Now both of these torches have their own repeater that can also turn them off, but since neither of these blocks, neither of these bits of redstone are powered, these torches won't either turn off, and so the top one is kept off by the bottom torch. Now on the complete opposite side for this first one, both these bits of redstone are powered. So both of these repeaters are keeping the torches off. So both of these, so this torch is off because this repeater is keeping it off. And so the lamp does not get powered. However, right here, we have the bottom has power, but the top does not. That means this bottom, the second repeater in, is powering and keeping this torch off, but this second one in is not yet powered. So there's nothing keeping this torch off, so it turns on, and that's what powers the lamp. Now no matter where you press the button, and no matter how much power comes out here, the top row of redstone here will always be one spot behind the bottom redstone, because to get to the top you have to go an extra piece of redstone. Basically, let's say this is 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Alright. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 level power coming out of this. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But to get it up to the top, we have to go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there'll always be one spot where there's power at the bottom, but not at the top. And that determines which lamp gets turned on. So that's that design. This is just... Alright, this was the initial design that said, yeah, it took a bit of redstone and a little space here. Because we have this basically row of torches and then row of repeaters. Well, you can invert this light here by just putting that wire right on top. So instead of only the one you select being on, this design has only the one you select being off. And it's basically the same design there, except this wire runs right on top of these blocks that are on top of the lamps. So we have one spot that never quite meets up because we're doing the subtraction and that way. And so whichever one you press has the light out. Now I kind of inverted this around, so we are using stone buttons on wood. I don't like stone buttons on stone, it's always hard to see. And the reason I'm doing that is stone buttons are not pushed in as long. And so when the button is pushed in, it keeps the lamp lit. So you can see it. Really, the change happens as soon as that lamp that's out down there turns on. You can see there's a kind of a quarter second where that lamp is on, but this one is not yet off. It really isn't being powered from the top anymore, but the button is still powering it, so it looks off. The long and short of it is, you'll still get power out, like you can take power out from that block right there, and that will be the power. And it basically happens, just like 4 ticks after you press the button, but the lamp doesn't update until the button pops out. So that's this design, and again, that was a variation on Odyssey's design, just to have the lamps be on normally instead of off normally. And then finally, we have this design here by Mazuma Games, and this, I kind of like this one, but again, it's somewhat resource intensive. I was able to squeeze down the the excess mechanics or electronics here, redstone, for it down to 2 blocks wide, or at least 2 blocks extending beyond the edge. And basically this is kind of a variation on this, but instead of using a whole bunch of redstone, well, it still does use a whole bunch of redstone repeaters, but instead of the torches, it basically has these pistons that are kind of set up like AND gates. So down here, if power ever gets to the very end, that means you've pressed this button. You don't need an extra piston here. Let's stick it like that. So basically, again, we have a top and a bottom that are offset by 1. And that is done... again, we subtract 1 and then take that power level, and I sneakily use this torch again. This is being powered by the torch, so it's 15, and then this is 1 minus whatever the selected power level is. This powers the block directly, so if, let's say, this outputs 8, this is 8, and also this is 8, which makes this 7. So the top is 1 power less than the bottom. And normally, the pistons have blocks that these will power through, but once the pistons themselves get powered, the block moves down, and then these won't power through, can't power through the piston head. So it acts sort of like, well, not really an AND gate, but this is not. If this is A and that's B, it's not A and B. So that's how this works. Very similar to this circuit in concept and operation. It just uses pistons instead of a torch turning off another torch, basically. So that's this design. Like I said, any of these designs, you can use basically a longer version of this to convert the power level into an appropriate turned switch track. So I'll just, this will only go up to 8, but, you can make a 15 long version of that, and use a selector panel if you like a selector panel. Obviously, a selector panel, if you need more than 8, will work, but if you only need 8, definitely the spinner item frame control, I think, is a better idea. So what if you need more than 15? If you need more than 8, you need more than 15. Well, can you use 2 spinner controls together? And yes, you can. This is what I came up with, at least initially. I have a better version that I'll show you in a minute. But here we got an arrow that we can spin around. We got a sword that we can spin around. And each of these can be set to a color. And we have this monstrosity with 64 tracks, because 8 times 8 is 64. So how does this work? Glad you asked. Here's a slightly bigger version of my memory cell. This is basically the first version I came up with, and then I was able to shrink it down. Well, yeah, here I was playing with it. I was able to shrink it down. But basically, you get in a cart, you ride up here, and then we have these 8 switch tracks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these are, if I remember correctly, these are controlled by this arrow, by the arrow. So you can see they're all set to, Oh, well, the way I have this set up, yeah, here. They're all set, so you go out the first one. How can I break this without breaking it? This will show it off a little better initially. So right now, the arrow is set to red. So this is basically red track. And then if I turn this, this flips and you'll go down this way. So this is orange. Yellow will be the next one, etc., etc., etc. So what does this do? Well, no matter which one you go down, each of them has 8 options. So if the sword is on red, once you're coming down here, you'll turn down this way. Now if I turn the sword to orange, you'll see you'll skip past the first one and turn down this way. But if you came down this track instead, well, the same thing happens. You'll skip past this one and you'll turn this way. And basically the whole rest of this is just to maneuver to get the tracks so they don't interfere with each other. I basically found that the closest you can put these are 4 blocks away, and so the first ones go, the first track here goes down immediately. This one goes up over here and then down. The following 2 go up to a second level, and then we have basically you have 16 outputs this way, and they're kind of in a different, kind of weird order, but 1, 2, 3, etc. And then you come back after you get up to 8 for 9, 10, 11, because 1 to 8 comes off this track, the kind of the red track, and then 9 through 16 come off the orange, and then again the next 2 come up here and do the same pattern, and then we flip this whole thing around. So these 2 are up here, and then the final 2 are over here. What is that? Oh. Why are you burning out? How are you powering yourself? That's really strange. I've never seen that before. There's nothing under here. Alright, well, that's just a weird glitch. If I put this... Alright. So I'll put these back. It's basically... How this really works is... that... This is basically... a slightly different version of my memory cell, but it doesn't actually take the value until you step on the pressure plate to get a cart. And at that point, it gets the value and locks it in, and you can see that light turns out, which indicates that the current destination is locked in, and no matter how much you turn this, it's not going to unlock until about 15 seconds after the cart leaves. Actually, it's less than that. I think it's closer to 12 seconds. Because there's not a full complement of 10 comparators there. And that gives you enough time to get from here all the way to the opposite corner over here. Now, with 64 destinations, how does anybody know where they're going? Yeah, that's a good question. So, I kind of made up this wall chart. And basically, this has all possible combinations. So if you want, you would look at these signs, and instead of numbers here, there'd be, actual destinations. Joe's base. And you'd see that would be arrow at that angle, which happens to be yellow, and sword at that angle, which happens to be orange. Or... you can come over here and you'll see, another spot here is, sword on orange, arrow on purple. Or, you know, basically all the possible combinations, all 64 combinations are up on here. And so you can read where you want to go and set it. The thing is, well, this is big. It's taller than it needs to be. So after I built this, I kind of went back and looked at it and see how I could improve it. And I came up with this version. It's not as tall. I basically found a way to route the second line down as well, so it doesn't need to go up. So we don't need, because this doesn't need to go up, we don't need the extra headroom, so we can lower this whole platform here. And this is the result. Otherwise, this is identical to that, mostly. Basically, I had to reroute the line for coming in a little bit as well, with reducing the height. But otherwise, it works identically. I also was able to reduce the timing a bit, so it's not locked out as long. I think it's closer to 8 or 9 seconds now. So really, well, what would this look like as a station? All done nice. Well, I'm glad you asked. This is my take on making a nice station out of this. Did some stained glass windows. We got a nice minecart stained glass window right here, and a portal stained glass window. I never did turn on the portal, but there is a nice big portal here. I mean, what would be really cool is if you have one of these in the overworld, and then I'm matching one of these in the nether, such that, you know, these portals would link to each other, and you could just do the interior different colors or something like that, so you have a sense of where you are. I laid out these a little differently. They're a little easier to read, so you can see half the table basically at once. You got your controls here. You even have a clock. You can step on the pressure plate to go, and you know, lockout works the same way. We also have a empty cart detector, basically. If you don't actually get in it, can't get up the hill if it's empty. If it's not empty, it will get up the hill. The other thing I did is we actually have 2 minecart collectors. So basically, if you come in on your minecart, let's get a minecart here. This is the whole inside. Looks a little, it's mostly the same. It looks a little nicer because we got these nice white quartz walls. But let's say I'm coming in. You'll be directed to one of these 2 spots, and it gives you, if there's a lot of people coming in, they'll, you know, you alternate sides. So basically, I came in and went straight. This time, come on, I'll be turned to the side, and that gives you a few extra seconds to move out of the way before the next person comes in. Both hoppers still bring the carts over here to be reused. We got some nice artwork. You see paintings. And then not only we got some nice stairs up, we got an exit on the side. There's 2 front entrances, one over here, kind of one behind those direction signs. We got some nice lamps. And we have a whole nice viewing area of how this whole place works. And you can see people coming and going, and you can come all the way out the back here, and we got stairs down. So this is my kind of nice 64 track station. We got you get 32 tracks coming out each side, 16 at the bottom, 16, I think that's like 6 blocks up. So yeah, this is my nice version of this 64 track station. As I was finishing up decorating this, though, something hit me. Why am I doing 64 kind of horizontally? What if I did 64 vertically? And this is kind of what I built off of that idea. It's 8 wide. Well, 8 wide. It's got 8 tracks horizontally and 8 tracks vertically. So this is kind of the prototype version, where this controls how far horizontally you go. And then when you come here, your cart would come and then start falling down this hole. But you'd land on this track. However, if you turn this one, we got a little mechanism here that pulls the track sideways and then pulls the block that the track was on back. You can see there's a piston here with the block that pulls that back. And then if you're turning it back on, it makes sure that the block comes out first, and then the piston pushing the track comes out. If it did it in a different order, the track would pop off. If the track is ever on a hole, or the block that the track is on ever moves, the track would pop off. So we got I won't say it's a complicated circuit, but it's a little bit of circuit to make sure that that never happens. So now if we come down the hole, we'll fall past this first track, but land on the second angle track and go on. And of course, we can turn this a bunch more, and you can see the signals propagating down. So now we'd fall quite a bit ways before we'd hit a track, and I'll just show you what that actually looks like. And you see you get past much faster, and eventually this is the last kind of switch, and if that is open, then you'll just come down here to the ground and come out. But this is a different way to do 64. So I have this kind of here, and I put an actual kind of station on it with actual spinners. Actually, that's one thing I didn't mention. I kind of borrowed this idea from the nice station. When you actually turn, we got lights on actually indicating, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The nice version of the station doesn't have this exactly. It has lights coming out in a row on the side, but kind of an indicator in addition to the color and the pointer. But this is kind of, I won't say completely decorated, but it gives you more of an idea of how this would look. We have, if you come in on a line, in this case, you fall all the way to the bottom, but then you are accelerated across, and then up here to the top, where the minecart is collected, and then you can choose a new destination. Cyan for both. You get a cart, you get in, and you are sent on your way, and you're accelerated away. So I wouldn't, you still probably need to decorate this, but it takes up more vertical room, but a lot less horizontal room. And in addition, I can put some blocks here as stairs. If you're on the ground, you can step here and get in a minecart, and this will take you all the way up. So it acts as a quick elevator / escalator. And the kind of neat thing is, because this has a bunch of minecarts stored in these hoppers here, this down here, it has its own dispenser, but if I pull a few carts out of here, we got a hopper minecart that goes up and grabs a few more minecarts and brings them down and automatically refills. So this won't ever run out as long as up there doesn't run out. So that's this idea. Kind of a vertical switch track. But then I'm thinking, it's kind of wide here. What if we kind of wrap this around itself and kind of make a building out of it? But then I thought, well, why limit us to 64? I took 4 of these and made a building out of it. This is a 256 track switch station with 4 independent launch sections, each launch section servicing 64 of the lines. To kind of keep them separate, we have kind of different themes here. This is the military theme with a sword and an arrow. This is the plant theme with a carrot that points and a fern that points. This is the fungus theme with 2 mushrooms that kind of whichever side the mushroom is on is where it points. And finally, torches, a redstone torch and a normal torch, where obviously the stick of the torch points at the color. On top of that, we have the indicator lights. You're supposed to be over there. No, there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. On top of that, we have this nice area down here where the carts are collected. Really, it was just, I wanted to kind of put it up here, but that there was routing the carts in to try to get them all to like 1 cactus in the center. It was too tight and worked out to be kind of better here. So each way in kind of comes to the same spot. We have a place to add additional carts if you need it to. Actually, there's one on both sides. There's a quick way down to ground level, which has you basically falling in a pool. So you can, even without creative, you would just fall in the pool, get out. This is 1.8 pre-release. You can actually put slime blocks down here if you want, but you bounced out, and even with slime blocks and water, you bounced out way too much. We got the kind of same circuit down here where you can get in a cart and ride up. This is also how you come back into the system. You make a little switch around, and cart automatically is collected, and it gets reused and automatically distributed to whichever cart station needs it. That was a little complex to set up, but basically, there's a ring of hoppers going all the way around at this level. And the cactuses are, well, you can see the sand right there, the cactus is on top of it. So that feeds into the ring. Then right here, this is the dropper, and then there's a dispenser right above it, and that's where the cart gets outputted when you step on the pressure plate to leave. And what we have over here is a set of hoppers. So if this hopper ever empties, which I can do right now, this turns on, or this turns off, which will then turn that torch off, which allows carts to flow into what we have here is a item lift with droppers, and it's been turned back off because we obviously filled up here. It's silent because it wasn't any items missing. You can see that now we have 2 carts. So yeah, it outputs a little more carts, but until this signals to turn off the item lifter. So basically, takes some carts out of this ring of hoppers and lifts them up to a one of the 4 track starts if it ever starts to get low. I mean, it still has 9 carts in there when the item lifter is turned on, so it's not a problem. Yeah, so it's basically just, well, I hoped it was as simple as just 4 of those rotated and then modified slightly, but it turns out where this side works just, if I remove this block here, there's a repeater that powers this corner. That only, well, that works on 2 of the directions, but because of directionality, this is the other direction it works on, we needed torches on the others, and because of that, there had to be a gap in the wall. I couldn't put a block up here because then the torch would power the block, which would power the redstone, which would turn off the torch, and we'd have a burnout issue. So yeah, 2 of the sides look like this. I could maneuver stuff, but that would be basically rebuilding a lot of this, so I'm kind of fine with this. It still looks nice from here. It looks nice down in here. The outside needs some work. Down here needs some work. But you can hide, these tracks behind a nice big wall and make a nice big atrium in here. These blocks here are actually to let some natural light in, kind of through those stairs and then through the glass blocks. It still was kind of dark down here, so I do have the glowstone. But yeah, you need a little extra lighting. They may have monsters spawn. I'm in peaceful right now. But yeah, definitely the outside could be made to look nicer, put a nice facade on it. But this is a giant track switch building with 256 tracks. And that's about everything I have. So if any of you, if you like any of these designs, please, leave a like on a video. Leave some comments if you know of better designs from what I've showed, or smaller, or more resource efficient. Always looking for better designs. If you know of any simpler way of having 256 tracks come out of a single station, leave a link to a video or a comment on how you would think that could be done, or a link to a video that you've made with a interesting station. Always interested in finding new station designs. But thanks for watching, and catch you guys next time.